Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Choco the Chocobo, and we're actually going to be doing something on a single-player world, so it's not going to be any progress on HTM, but I promised this a long time ago. I really wanted to do this because we have people that have, joined the series late, kind of confused about how things work, like, Choco, how did you do this? How do you do X or Y or Z? And so this is the episode where I hope you guys are able to catch up and hopefully learn some things that allow you to become really, really well off in your own survival worlds, in your own survival servers, whatever it may be. Please do note that this is 1.8 mechanics. There are some things that have changed over time. So if you're on console and stuff, maybe some things still work. I'd imagine the majority of them still do. In terms of the armor, the way armor protection stuff works and all that stuff. But the villager mechanics especially, which is a huge thing that we'll be talking about on this episode, will not be true. So definitely do bear that in mind. It will be a little bit different for you guys, not on 1.8. But let's get started. We're going to be doing a 1.8 kind of recap of the server. So the main mechanics, the first thing that, of course, is one of the signature things that we've done in HTM about having lots of levels and whatever else. That's from a golden experience farm. There is a tutorial for how to make that experience farm, a version of it that I made on my channel. If you go look up the farm tutorial thing, it's like a little, it's a picture. The thumbnail is like me in diamond armor or something, and the nether. That's basically it. You can find it. It's not too hard to find. You can go check that out if you like and you want to know how to build it, but I will not be covering that today. But moving onward, let's talk about some of the things that really work well. So first off, we need to start off with villagers. So villagers are a huge part of how to Minecraft. Like Vic has them, I have them, even Preston had some. Lachlan doesn't have any. I think Pete might, I don't know. But everyone really has used villagers a lot on the server because villagers are really helpful. So we're gonna go one at a time, and I'm just gonna run through the villagers so you guys know what is going on and how to use them effectively, because that, I think, is one of the major things in 1.8 that became super borderline OP. Like, it honestly is a little bit on the stronger side of things. But anyways, let's get going. Starting off with farmer. Now, one important thing about all these villagers, for what I have done, I even haven't unlocked all of them yet because this is for tutorial sake, but I'm just going to go over what each class can do and stuff like that and kind of what they're useful for. But bear in mind that whenever you do this on your own servers, you're going to get some different values. So like this one says 19. It's possible that yours won't be 19. There is a range for all the different trades in the game, but the trades themselves will always be the same. So a farmer will always trade wheat to emeralds as their first trade. The second trade will always be potatoes to emeralds. Third ones will always be carrots to emeralds, and then the fourth one will be emeralds to bread. There's a fifth one that's pumpkins to emeralds, then emeralds to pumpkins, and then the next tier is melons to emeralds, and then emeralds to apples. And it's an emerald to apple, 5 apples, which is really great if you have lots of emeralds on deck, which you should have. You have my gold farm. If you set up some kind of a major farming operation, you have lots of farmers. All that works. This is a dream. So that's how I get lots of apples in the HTM series, and that's how I managed to get so many random things. But yes, so that is the way you can do that. And the last tier of trade would be emeralds to cookies, and then emeralds for 1 cake. So that's farmers. Now farmers, you may notice that he has a brown coat, this guy has a brown coat, this guy has a brown coat, this guy has a brown coat. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, I mean, how does this work? Because you may be asking yourself, how do you make those villager farms? How do you make it so they do farming? How do you do the automatic wheat farm, stuff like that? They all belong to what I consider to be a class of villager, right? So this guy's actual occupation is farmer, but anyone with just a brown coat, like no apron, no purple, magenta, whatever, not in a white coat, not with a black apron, if they just have the brown coat on, these fall into the farmer, I sometimes call them gatherer subclass, or like the general type. Maybe I should call them categories, I don't know. Regardless, but the general type of villager is that these guys are gatherers. And what that means is these guys will collect potatoes, carrots, wheat, on a farm. They'll kind of automatically replenish your farms for you, which is really handy. They have their own inventories. What they will do is that if they are not full, which is basically that they've had they're not breeding or anything, and their inventory is chock full of stuff, and they just they're not doing anything with that food. They're not giving it to a hungry villager or whatever else. These guys will go around within a certain radius, and they will look for fully grown wheat, potato, or carrot plants, and they'll harvest them. Now, if their inventories are full, those items will remain on the ground, but usually they would pick them up. So for the villager farms, for example, what we would do is the most common one in my world is to do potatoes and carrots. Just leave a whole bunch of potatoes and carrots everywhere, and then these guys, when they're ripe, they'll pull out a couple more potatoes than they originally had. It's more than one potato when they're ripe. So they'll pull them out, and then they'll hold on to the inventory of potatoes. Once they have too many potatoes, they'll start looking for other villagers who are not holding a ton of potatoes and start giving them extra potatoes and carrots or whatever food they have. That's to make sure that they are all like full, they're not hungry. And then once you have that done, then they get ready to breed, as long as you have enough doors or whatever else in your village. So the basic premise behind villager farms is that you want them to be full, which you usually do by giving them like a little farm plot and then having them stuck in there, and they just keep on kind of growing and growing and growing. But you have a farm plot, you have at least 2 villagers, one is a farmer or gathering type, and then you have a lot of doors. Now the actual ratio for doors, I forget exactly what it is. I want to say that you need, for every villager, it's like, I don't know off the top of my head, you just need a lot of doors. Just put a ton of doors down and eventually it'll cap off. You can look at that information up if you are so curious, but that is one of the major things. And there's a small right going on stream. I have no idea. But anyways, so that is the farmer guy. Very, very handy. The main use for this guy is that he is a really solid way to get emeralds. And I'll demonstrate in a little bit what I mean by that, because that is something that is a little bit confusing, and some people have a little bit of confusion about how that works exactly. So we will explain that in a bit. But just remember that he's one of the villager occupations that is very good for getting emeralds on, because he's a very friendly villager. The next on the list is shepherds. Now, shepherds are a little bit simpler. They only have 2 tiers of trades. These guys will always trade you wool to emeralds, and then emeralds to shears. Now, this is obviously not a great trade, but at the same time, if you have emeralds and you don't want to look for iron or whatever else, you can do that. The wool to emeralds, it's okay. This is not going to be considered one of the ones that you prefer to get emeralds on. The next tier of trade is that he would unlock colored wool. And actually, since we have this here, we might as well just show this to you now. Well, never mind. No, we'll explain this later. I'll explain what tiers are at the very end of this whole explanation of what they offer. Okay, fishermen. These guys will offer you a string to emerald trade, as well as a fish. If you give them raw fish and an emerald, they will give you cooked fish. I personally think this is the worst trade in the history of Minecraft. I don't know. I don't know in what world this makes any sense, but yeah, they will cook fish for you basically for an emerald. And then you can also trade coal for emeralds. This one is, again, it's an all right one to farm emeralds on. It's not great. I wouldn't personally lose sleep if you don't have them. And the next tier of trade is that he'll give you a level 5 through 19 Enchanted Fishing Rod. Now, when I say a level 5 to 19, that means you are not going to get a level 30 enchant rod. So you're not going to get like the whole surrounding bookcases. You need to be level 30 in order to enchant. You will not get anything there. The best you can get is if you were spending, if you were enchanting as if it was having a 19 level 19 cap. So whenever you look at the enchantment table, it'll say like, in order to enchant, you have to have like 1 level or 2 levels or whatever levels, and you spend lapis on it. You can only have up to 19 here. It will not give you 1 through 4, but it will start at 5, but it will not go above 19. This is a very important part for later on. I'll explain a little bit better when we reach the people that matters for it. But this guy, again, would not lose sleep over. He's not very good. Fletcher, same boat as the fisherman. It's not great. It's not bad. This guy only trades strings to emeralds, and then also will trade emerald to arrows. This should not matter to you all that much, but if for whatever reason you really need a ton of arrows, this could be a good way to do that. There are probably easier ways, like getting a skeleton grinder if you have access to that, or simply just getting a ton of, or if you just need it for bows, just use an infinity bow. But if you do need a lot of arrows for dispensers or whatever else, then this is probably your guy. The next tier of trade that he will give you is he will basically attempt to change gravel into flint. And so he'll trade like 10 gravel and an emerald, and then trade you somewhere between 6 through 10 flint in exchange for that. It's really terrible. Don't bother with it. It's rubbish. You have better things to spend emeralds on. And he'll also trade you a bow for 2 to 3 emeralds, which again, it's not great. It's definitely, this guy you can probably live without. But that finishes up the gathering class, the gathering type. Moving on. Now these guys are considered to be craftsmen. These guys are a little bit weird, the white aprons, because they're sort of inconsistent with what they do. They don't really fit into one thing. Like, they're not just food, they're not just one thing. They're kind of random, but they work with animals, I guess is the main thing. But anyways, leather worker. This guy is actually one of the cooler ones. Now, he trades you leather to emeralds, which is not a great use of them. And emeralds for pants, and then he will also, the next tier he unlocks the chest. Not great, not bad. I mean, if you want leather stuff, I guess that could save you some work, but realistically not. But the next tier after that, so the third tier, he will offer you a saddle in exchange for 8 to 10 emeralds. Now, normally you'd have to go into a dungeon to find a saddle, which is a huge pain in the butt, right? Because you have to go exploring, and it's random chance of whether or not a chest has a saddle in the first place. Go look for mine chests for days. This guy will let you trade for saddles endlessly, basically. So this is a really, really good guy to have on deck for saddles. Now, he is very vulnerable to lockout, which I'll explain at the end, but he is vulnerable to lockout. The butcher is another good source of gathering for emeralds, but not great. So he'll offer you raw pork, raw chicken to emeralds. This will be anywhere between 14 through 18, so you want that number to be lower so you don't have to spend quite as much. But he will trade you emeralds for these. These are not bad, especially once you have your own like little farms going. This will definitely work. Not as good as the farmer, but certainly something that you can use if you have a ton of animals. If you have like an automatic chicken farm, for example, where you're not burning the chicken, but you're just kind of like having them run in the background, it's possible that this would be a very simple thing to put together, and it would definitely be a decent way to get emeralds, and the rates aren't bad. Not my personally preferred way of doing it, but certainly is possible. He will also let you trade coal to emeralds on the next tier, as well as trading emeralds to cooked chicken and cooked pork chops, which that again is probably not the greatest way to use emeralds, but you can do that. This is another farmer because we had an uneven number of spaces. The Cleric. Now this guy, for our HTM series, for the KwehCraft HTM, this is one of the most, if not the most important villagers for the series. This is the guy that hooks us up with all the emeralds, because once you make the XP gold farm, you're going to have a lot of zombie flesh, you're going to have a lot of gold, and you're basically going to have like an infinite supply of those, and it's not hard to gather. So this guy, the reason why he's always good is that he'll always trade you zombie flesh as well as gold ingots for emeralds. Now you may think to yourself, that seems kind of steep, Choco, but think of it this way. If you have a mass storage center for all your rotten flesh like I do, you will almost never run out, and you will never need rotten flesh for anything else, basically. If you play modded and stuff, it changes, but honestly, I don't think there's much modded potential right now on 1.8. But theoretically, as long as you have that farm, at that point, you will have an infinite number of trades possible with the Cleric. Because it's very hard to lock him out at that point, because he has so many good trades for, like, these are the only ones that get you emeralds, these two right here, but he will trade you a ton of stuff, because the tier 2 trades are emerald to redstone dust, emerald to lapis lazuli, then the next tier after that is an emerald for glowstone, emerald to ender eye, well, emeralds to ender eye, excuse me, and then the next tier after that is emeralds to ball of enchanting, which is like a last minute Hail Mary, dear God, please never lock out like this. But this is a very, very solid villager. For what we do, this guy is one of the best. That said, he is not the most efficient. If you want the most efficient, the farmer is still the best, hands down person to farm emeralds with, which is what we're doing on the Conclave. So that's where we're building Conclave. Conclave is just, it's better to farm emeralds on. That said, Cleric has been really good to us. He is a really stable villager to work with, and he offers really good stuff in terms of having the ability to get actually let's actually get some. I just want to get those trades out here for you guys, because I know that it's sort of hard to understand if you're not looking at it. All right, so he's going to open up his new tier, which you can tell whenever he sparkles. There it is. Okay, so there you go. emerald to redstone dust and to lapis lazuli, and then you can keep on trading endlessly, and then he'll keep on unlocking more until he reaches his full offering. So awesome, really, really good, really, really great. Cleric has done a lot of great stuff for us. I'm actually gonna come back. Well, no, I'll talk about Librarian now. All right, so Librarian is this guy is probably has the potential to be the most valuable of your villagers in terms of trading for something. The reason why he's so valuable is because whenever you get a Librarian, it's random chance what you get, but he will eventually offer you 3 books. The rest of his trades are, he will offer you paper for emeralds. Wait, no, he will give you an emerald for lots of paper. It's crazy amounts. It's really never going to be worth it for you to trade emeralds for this. It's basically a lockout thing. You could trade books to emeralds. Again, not the greatest. There are some weird things you can do to try to make that work, but realistically, no, it's not great. He will also trade you like written books, which is bizarre. I don't know why they did that, but they can trade like these like written books for emeralds. Again, not great. I wouldn't recommend it. And I think that's all for the things that he'll give you emeralds for. And then he'll offer you a compass for like 10 emeralds or something. It can be good if you don't want to be bothered. The bookshelf one, 3 to 4 emeralds for a bookshelf, which is amazing because then this guy will take care of all your enchanting book needs. You don't ever have to farm for cows again. You don't have to farm paper. You don't have to worry about all that stuff. It's literally, you just get a ton of emeralds, you just start throwing at them, and he'll just give you bookshelves back, and that's 3 per, which is awesome. He'll also give you emeralds for a clock, which is pretty good. If you need clocks or whatever, just for the aesthetics of a place. And the final tier trade that he has is emeralds for a name tag, which again, it's one of those things that would normally only be in a dungeon. So if you like that kind of stuff, awesome. If not, that's fine too. So definitely something very, very cool. And the main thing that I kind of skipped over entirely is that he will offer you, over the course of all his trades, he will give you 3 chances for an enchanted book. Now, this is what's really interesting about the Librarian. He will roll you a 1 through 30 enchant. Now, I personally have never seen, I don't think I've seen an enchant, like double enchants. Like, he's never offered me like, here's an efficiency 3, like unbreaking 2 book. Like, he's never done that. But what he will do is he'll offer you 1 kind of enchant at least on an enchanted book. So like sharpness or efficiency or whatever. He'll offer you an enchanted book, and it can be anywhere between 1 through 30, which means he can trade you the best books in the game for emeralds. And the amount he charges you kind of varies. It's usually pretty consistent, and it's like, if you have something that's really good, he'll charge you a lot for it. That said, it is possible to get amazing rates on really, really good books. So you can get a sharpness 5 librarian. You can get an efficiency 5 librarian. You can get all these crazy enchants. You can theoretically get all the best enchants you need permanently, which is amazing because, you know, if you don't want to re-roll constantly and experience isn't a big thing for you, then this is a great way to do that. So definitely a cool guy to have in consideration for whenever you're trying to get super OP on a server. It is a really, really helpful thing to start, like, to gather up your librarians and just check what trades they have. It's a very, very handy thing to have. Now, we're on to the smiths. Now, the smiths are a very important part as well. They are similar to the librarian, that what they have on enchantments are pretty important, but of course there's something a little bit different here that I'll explain when we go back up there. But Weaponsmith, this guy, all the smiths will always offer the trade of coal as well as iron to emeralds. It is what it is. I personally don't find it all that great. If you think that's an amazing trade, they'll good for you. They will also offer you diamonds to emeralds. For the love of God, never make this trade. Like, please, under no circumstance, make this trade. I will cry. I think every single time you trade diamonds to an emerald, someone somewhere just gets hit by a truck. Like, it's just so bad. Never do. Like, it makes me cringe just knowing that it even exists. It blows my mind this was a trade that they thought was a good idea. I don't get it. But yeah, they do offer it. Never do it. These guys are not great for getting emeralds on, again, for obvious reasons, but they're also not the worst. Because if you have an iron golem farm, you can theoretically get a ton of emeralds, which is really, really handy, but that is what it is. Weaponsmiths, they'll offer you an iron axe on the first tier, an enchanted iron sword on the second tier, and the third tier, it'll offer you a diamond sword and a diamond axe. and those will come with enchantments. These can be pretty decent enchantments. They'll never be great enchantments. It's 5 through 19 again, but the real key is what we'll show later. But some of these enchantments, they come like with naturally. They're pretty decent. Like the one we have for a diamond axe and HTM is actually quite good. So, you know, bear that in mind. It can be amazing. It can be terrible. It really is kind of a random chance, but you can always use that, which means that you never ever have to spend diamonds ever again for a sword or an axe. And I'll explain how you do that later. Toolsmiths, similarly, they offer you those trades for emeralds. The first tier will offer you an enchanted iron shovel, which is decent. There is no diamond shovel trade in the game, unless you're playing like custom villagers or whatever. But there's no diamond shovel, so that is a potential thing that you may want to do. Who knows? He'll offer you an iron pickaxe in the second tier. Like, not great. The third tier, he offers you a diamond pickaxe. Again, huge deal, because at that point, you never have to spend diamonds ever again on a pickaxe. Super duper nice. Armor, similar deal. This guy, however, is going to offer you a ton of random stuff and a little bit of a weird thing at the end. Tier 1, he'll offer you an iron helmet. Tier 2, he'll offer you an iron chest. Tier 3, he offers you a diamond chest plate, which is so amazing, because this means you never have to spend diamonds on chest plates again. That saves you 8 diamonds for 16 to 19 emeralds, which is it's a joke. It really is just a joke. There's no reason not to do that. So very, very good trade, very strong trade. It's why we never, ever, we don't care about armor. Like, we don't care about the chest plates. We'll throw them around. We can burn them. It doesn't matter to me, because we can get as many of these as we want. That said, there's actually a tier after diamond chest plate, which is kind of weird, because you'd expect like that's it. But he'll offer you one more set of trades, which is all the chainmail. It's pretty cool if you like kind of setting that up, if you like to do things with armor stands or whatever else. That is all pretty cool and dandy. So definitely something to keep an eye on, definitely something to keep track of. But anywho's doodles, let's talk about these tiers. So I said there are tiers, and I'm sure some of you are wondering, oh, how does that work? How do you unlock multiple tiers of stuff? So here, whenever I traded a new trade, which was gold to emeralds, I'd never done it on this cleric before, he unlocked these 2 new trades, the redstone to lapis lazuli. Now, if I were to do it again, it's not, he may get a new tier of trades, or he may not. So let's see if he gets anything there. So he did. So you see those little swirls that come out of him? That means that he did refresh his trades. So there you go. Boom. He has Eye of Ender now, as well as glowstone, which is awesome, right? Now, if I trade a whole bunch of it, this happens, is trade something else to unlock. Now, the way that works is that if you over trade with a villager, the villager no longer wants to trade for that item, which is fine. And this gets some people panic. They think the villager is useless at this point. It's not true. All this means is that you need to trade something else with him in order to unlock it. But if you just did what I did, where you just trade a whole bunch and it locks you out, it's not necessarily going to lock you out forever, because he may sparkle after that. He may do the swirl thing, because that counts as a new trade. So it doesn't look like he's going to do it for us. So this is going to still be locked out. But if you want to unlock it, all you have to do is do either a trade he's never done before, like that, and you'll get swirls. Or you could do a trade that he's done before, but you might have to do multiple trades with him in order to get that cleared again. So you got the gold back. This is all working. Great. Awesome. And then he also unlocked this last thing, which is Evolve Enchanting. This is really great. This is really nice, because that means that if let's say that you trade a ton of, I don't know, let's trade for a ridiculous amount of redstone. I'm locked out. I can't trade anymore. Let's see if he does swirls. Yep, he did. So it's going to go right back to be unlocked. I just do this again and again and again. And this is how you grind emeralds. This is how you get a ton of extra emeralds on your character. It's really, really handy. And then if you run out of things to do, let's just go back to gold so I can show you what I mean. It is possible for you just to go like this. And then it's a trade that we've done before, but trade enough times, and then he will unlock all your trades for you. So that's how villagers work, kind of in a nutshell. Obviously, there's a little bit more that we could talk about in terms of the exact things, but that is the general premise. Now, as far as I know, these guys all the way over here, everyone that's not a gatherer is basically not terribly useful. And sorry for the phone, but it's not really great. They don't do anything else. The only ones that do anything, as far as I know, are the gatherer types. So these guys, they'll plant, like, you know, crops for you. Everyone else just kind of hangs out, but their trades are amazing, so it balances out. That said, the reason why the farmer is, of course, my favorite of all the different villagers for trading is because of the just vast number of offers he has that are dirt cheap, and their ratios are all pretty good. So let me just unlock until the last tier so you guys can actually see it. And we have one more tier to go after that. So let me just trade for apples. Alright, so that should unlock everything. So, this guy will offer you wheat, which is replenishable easily, potatoes, again easy, carrots, again easy. These three things you can get emeralds from, and it is super duper easy to get them. And what's more is you don't have to do any crafting in between or anything like that, so you could theoretically just go boom, 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 boom down the line and just have tons of emeralds for days. So that would get you really into OP status on the servers. You can also trade pumpkins. This one, it's all right, but obviously you need quite a few pumpkin farms to make this really like be decent. You can also do melons. Melons are a little bit more problematic because they don't like to break as a whole piece. I'm sure there are ways to do it, but in general it's not the easiest thing to do in the world, so it is possible. It probably isn't preferable, but that is there. You can also get apples for golden apples if you have my farm, which is how I have like bajillions of golden apples everywhere running around. But yeah, farmer is my first rated one for getting emeralds. Second one is cleric, and then if I had to say a third one, it would probably be the butcher. The butcher is pretty easy to make something like a chicken farm and then have a cow farm to manage. It's not too bad, but again, not great. So that's that. That's all the villager mechanics I want to talk about. Now let's talk about some of the really, really cool stuff. Let's get rid of all this stuff. So let's talk about these things right here. So as I said before, these smiths will offer you enchanted things, and you may think to yourself, well, Choco, I don't really want whatever enchants they have on there, right? It's just not something I want to use, so it's not useful to me. That's not actually true. So if you have two enchanted swords like this, like let's say you're like, oh, I don't really want sharpness 3 and I don't want to anvil it all the way into oblivion to make it work well, that's fine. What you can do is you can take them both and put them into a crafting table, and then you'll get a blank one. Now that's really important because if you put onto a blank one, it resets the memory of enchantment, which is a very weird thing that some people have a hard time getting their head around. So I'm going to just kind of demonstrate for you guys right now. So whenever you do any form of work on a item, so like let's say that I were to put sharpness 4 on this, this guy will it'll kind of do the damage, and then if I were to do the same thing again, it's going to cost more. And the reason for this is because it remembers that you did work on this item beforehand, and so it's kind of like this is the second time you've anviled something onto it, so it gets more and more expensive by way of levels. Something to keep in mind. Now that said, there's also a little bit of something else going on here, which is depending upon the enchantments that you're trying to put on the item, this one costs 4. A sharpness 5 book will cost 5. Now, it doesn't work like that for everything. Some things are weighted differently. But basically speaking, you can expect that the higher level enchantments, well, actually that's true across the board. If you have any higher level of enchantment, it will cost you more levels to do that enchantment. It's a very important thing to know. This actually gets a little bit into stuff that can be useful for like UHCs and stuff like that. Theoretically possible for survival games, I guess. Although I've never run into survival games where enchantments were all that important. Like in terms of, I don't think I've ever seen anyone be like, I am anviling things in survival games. Maybe people do, I don't know. Pouring water for myself. Or I'm peeing. Floor. But yeah, so, good job. Water thingy, please. I'm a big fan. Alright. So, you do have... Oh, that's not good. I'll fix that later. Alright, but you do have enchantments kind of getting more expensive depending upon the kind of enchantments that are there. Now, that's still true even if you're not going to have things going on to the item. So if you just have tons of random enchants on there, even if they don't... If you think they wouldn't take, like... let's see. Let's just take this sharpness. Actually, let's just do... Let's put a sharpness 5 on here. and then let's just do like, if you try to do something like this, it still costs a fair bit of levels. It makes no difference to the game, but it will still charge you because the output is going to be really high level. So bear that in mind. If the product is still going to be a high level item, it will also cost more by enchantment levels. Something that's kind of weird and neat about the whole Minecraft enchanting mechanic. So there's that. Now, because if you work on a sword a ton of times, it gets more expensive. This is where it depends on the way that you play survival, or if you're in if you're in UHC or whatever else, you do have to kind of remember, if you work an item too many times, it may not be worth doing that anymore compared to trying to do a fresh enchant. So because of that, you run into the situation where putting them into a crafting bench can be preferable. So I can say, okay, sharpness 3, boom. Actually, let me go ahead and do something real quick to these sharpness swords. So if I were to do, sharpness 3 like that. This is a sharpness 4 now. If I were to try to anvil it with, like, let's say a sharpness 5, it would cost 8. Now, if I run that through, I don't remember which one it was. Oh no, this is the sword. So if I run, if I run these through, make a new diamond one, and I try to put sharpness 5 on it, well, it costs 5 because it's considered to be a brand new sword. It has no memory of any past anvils. It is really, really nice. It is actually a really strong way to kind of make an infinite source, which means that all your smiths, they can give you blank diamond chest plates, blank diamond tools with the exception of shovel, and blank swords and axes, which is nice. It's a very, very nice thing to do. So definitely something very powerful in this game that exists. Very, very handy. Something that you may not have known about anvil mechanics. Also is the reason why I will never, ever run things through an anvil in terms of like diamond boots, diamond helmet, diamond pants, because you can't get those normally. I will never, ever repair them. Or if I do, it's because I'm being lazy, but you're not supposed to repair these things if you have the levels, because if you repair them, then number one, it gets more expensive in the future, which hurts your levels a lot. But number two, you're not going to get the maximum mileage out of it, because if you take a slightly damaged thing, add it to another slightly damaged thing, you're not really getting the most out of it with your unbreakings and other enchantments on there. So it's just a weird thing about enchanting that I wanted to make sure you guys knew. Now this last thing is sort of a side note, and I'm not going to spend too long on it. I just wanted to make a note about this. Whenever you have diamond armor is a little bit weird compared to other things. So there's people that say like, oh, if you're enchanting, you should use like gold stuff. I don't think that works anymore. I think they kind of changed it so it's possible to degrade your enchantment value. I could be wrong about that. I don't think I am. Who knows? Let me know in the comment section down below if I am, for sure. But pretty sure it doesn't work that way anymore. But the main thing here is that people got confused about the way like enchants work. Like they're like, oh, well, can you do like protection for blast protection for? How does that all work? There's something in the game called EPF, effective, I don't know, something or another. But there's EPF. You can go look it up. I think it's like enchanted protection factor or something. I don't know. But basically the way that it works is that you can never have two clashing enchantments on the same thing. Clashing is something that kind of falls to the same category, and you can't have more than one from that same category. So protection for blast protection, or blast protection, fire protection, I think that's one. And I don't know, I think they're my projectile protection. Those are all within the same category. You can only have one at a time. Feather falling is its own thing. Aqua affinity is its own thing. And unbreaking is its own thing. Let's see, depth strider is its own thing. The only things that are not its own thing is the protection ones, the fortune and silk touch ones, and I believe that might be it. Oh, and also the smite, bane of arthropods, and sharpness. So definitely something to keep in mind. You can't put anything in the same category, and also you can cap out on a value. So you shouldn't. This is something that you have to go to wiki for. I can try to explain it to you guys, but most of you probably don't even care all that much because it's very hyper specific. It's also kind of complicated. But basically, if you have two blast protections, the EPF value will generally go over 25. And therefore, it makes no sense for you to go for a third thing of blast protection. It won't offer you any more protection from explosions. It's just one of the weird things about Minecraft. Just take my word on it. So the one thing that generally works out, and the reason why we always run around with Prot 4 gear, is because Prot 4 protects you from all sources of damage with the exception of Void, which is like you falling through the map. But with the exception of the Void, it should protect you from just about all sources of damage. The nice thing about that is also at full Prot 4, it will not run over your EPF. That's why we do what we do. It's very simple, very straightforward. Just protects you from everything, and it's an effective way to use that in favor of yourself. Now, there are some people that will argue that they should like mix in like one thing, projectile protection, or even run around different kinds of armor. So you have one for range, one for melee. I personally don't understand that because I think that's sort of inefficient, and frankly, you're probably in more trouble switching out your gear than you would be just kind of fighting with what you have on, because Prot 4 isn't bad. But it is possible that you could do that. But that's why we run around with Prot 4 stuff. Also, because this is something that people get really confused about in terms of why we run around with what we do, the diamond chest plate is the only thing that we can get from smiths. In terms of everything else, the helm, the pants, and the boots, you cannot get that from smiths. This is why we don't run around in diamond armor typically. If you are in a place, if you're in a situation where you are unable to get tons of emeralds and stuff, obviously this may not matter to you, but if you do have access to a ton of emeralds, you should always get it from the smith. Just make sure you get your diamond chest plate from the smith. Don't ever craft it, but these 3 things you still need to. But anyways, I hope this video has helped you guys learn a little bit more about where we are on HTM, why we do some of the things that we do. I hope that is useful information for you guys. If you have any questions and stuff, leave them down below. If a lot of people ask the same question, I might make a follow-up video for this. Definitely something that I can look into in the future, but hopefully you guys are going to be better off in your survival worlds now, because that's the goal of this video. If you did enjoy this, be sure to hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the Minecraft content. And of course, leave comments down below if I said something wrong, or if there's something confusing, if you have questions, whatever else, because I am happy to entertain them if I can. But anyways, my God, my brain is a million miles a minute. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Ciao for now.